As we edge closer to the 2021 NFL Draft, each week we are going to be bringing in some of the league's top mock drafts and breaking down what exactly these picks mean for the green and white. However, before we get started, let's bring back in Anthony Becht and Erik Coleman, who are standing by to give us some of your insight. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. Ethan, let's dive right into this first mock draft. This one comes from NFL Network's Peter Schrager, and as we've already discussed, a lot of analysts around the league have that number two pick coming in with quarterback Zach Wilson. So we're not going to talk about him today. What I'd like to focus on is that number 23 overall pick. Schrager has wide receiver Rondale Moore coming for the Jets. What do you think about this pick, Ethan?
Well, I think this is an exciting pick because in this scenario, you get your quarterback, you get another playmaker already on top of what the Jets have here. And with Rondale Moore in particular, it's not often you talk about a 5'7" home run hitter. That is exactly what Rondale Moore is. He has 4.3 speed. He's a thicker player at 181 pounds, although shorter at 5'7". And I think the biggest question through the eyes of evaluators is the following. Is he the player we saw in 2018 who had over 1,000 yards receiving, who had 12 touchdowns, or is he the player over the past 2 seasons who only started 7 games, so has some durability concerns? All our questions will be answered in a couple weeks, but I'm curious, Anthony, how do you think Rondale Moore fits into this Mike LaFleur system, and what do you think of this pick overall?
Well, I think he's a great player. And quite frankly, this pick may be a little high. You may actually get him in the second round pick as well. But again, tremendous athlete. The one thing that sticks out about him on film versus elite defensive backs, secondary players that he played against in the Big Ten is that he rarely got ever tackled on the first time he made a guy miss. So he's always able to break a tackle or make the first guy miss, get those yards after the catch.
NFL Network's Peter Schrager there with Rondale Moore coming in at the number 23 overall pick for the New York Jets. Let's head to the mock draft number 2. This one comes from Fox Sports' Rob Rang. And yay, another interesting pick here. Number 23 overall, Rob Rang has wide receiver RASHOD Bateman coming in with that pick. What's interesting to you about RASHOD Bateman?
Well, every year we're talking about how great the wide receiver class is, and this year is no different. You got studs at the top, you got depth throughout. What's interesting about Bateman is he's a big-time red zone threat, 19 touchdowns at Minnesota. He caught a pass in every game he lined up in. He has position flexibility. I'm wondering if this would be more of a luxury pick because Bateman is considered a power forward. And even though he lined up at his pro day less than 6'1" and 190 pounds, he's a guy who can box people out. Well, the Jets already have 2 players like that in Denzel Mims and Corey Davis. Fox
Sports' Rob Rang, again, he had a 3-round mock draft, so we're going to break down some more of those picks. Let's now go to Erik Coleman. Let's take a look at ASANTE Samuel Jr. here. He's the 2nd-round pick that he has for the Jets, taking number 34 overall. EC, what stands out to you about ASANTE Samuel Jr.?
Well, when I watch film on ASANTE Samuel Jr., I love his foot position. He plays over his toes. He has great leverage. He's explosive out of his breaks. He can play man-to-man where he's very physical and closes well in receivers, but he excels when playing in zone coverage, when he drops back and plays in cover 2, when he's in cover 3. And we all know that Robert Saleh loves to play his zone coverage. He has excellent instincts, and he sees the quarterback well, breaks on the ball well, and is very aggressive and violent when coming up in run support. So, I think would be a fantastic fit for this defense. He's a tone setter at the cornerback position.
Now, Ethan, we're going to jump back to you for the final 2 picks here. We said 3 rounds, so these 3rd-round picks, he's got number 66 overall Wyatt Davis and number 86 overall with CHUBA Hubbard. What do you think about these 2 picks?
Well, outside of CHUBA having a great name, I like the way this mock draft has rounded out. You start with the quarterback, you get the playmaker, you add to your defense, and then you double down on offense in the 3rd round. And with Wyatt Davis, what's not to like about him? 2019 and 2020, a first-team All-American, has manhandled that right guard spot for the Ohio State Buckeyes each of the past 2 years. Willie Davis is his grandfather, the Hall of Fame defensive lineman. And with Davis, I think you would expect him to immediately contribute or at least compete for snaps. So could he start day 1? Maybe, but I think you add depth immediately. And with CHUBA Hubbard in 2019, he led the FBS in rushing yards, had over 2,000, 21 touchdowns. So if the Jets are going to attack the running back position by committee, which a lot of people expect the Jets to do, why not add another horse to the stable who didn't quite have the same year in 2020 as he did in 2019, but college football was a much different world this past season. So I like the mock draft that Rob Rang published, and I think a lot of Jets fans would like it too.
Well, as the April draft approaches quickly, we will be evaluating more and more mock drafts from around the league. That's a wrap on this week's mock draft breakdown.